For thousands of years, humans have passed down stories of massive winged creatures armed with sharp claws and the terrifying ability to breathe fire. What makes these legends strange is where they appeared. The mythology is scattered across disconnected cultures, showing up prominently in early European folklore. Yet thousands of miles away, ancient Chinese civilizations were depicting very similar serpentine creatures. These were societies separated by vast physical distances, with no realistic means of sharing stories. How did completely isolated cultures imagine and fear the exact same monster? This recurring image of a giant reptilian predator suggests that despite their lack of contact, these civilizations were observing and trying to explain a similar set of physical remains. Notice this massive 66 million year gap between the mass extinction of non-avian dinosaurs and the first appearance of modern humans. The giant reptiles of our imagination were eradicated long before any human ancestor walked the planet. No human ever watched a Tyrannosaurus hunt in a prehistoric forest. They didn't encounter living monsters. They discovered the colossal, preserved remains these creatures left behind. The dragon likely began not as a living animal to be hunted, but as a series of strange remains discovered deep within the earth. Imagine uncovering this in the dirt thousands of years ago. Without modern paleontology or any concept of deep geologic time, digging up massive, unexplainable bones would induce both awe and terror. For centuries, people in ancient China collected remnants exactly like these, referring to them as dragon bones. These fossilized fragments were so highly regarded that they were ground up and integrated into traditional medicine and ancient cultural practices. When you look closely at real prehistoric remains, the anatomical descriptions found in dragon mythology match the physical evidence. Massive, armored skulls, rows of terrifying teeth, elongated reptilian bodies, and sharp claws. The physical structure of a dinosaur directly mirrors the legendary descriptions. When an unfamiliar skull is pulled from the ground, the interpretation often relies on the most dangerous animals known to that specific culture. Humanity's historical encounters with giant, monstrous animals were based on physical realities that were simply mislabeled before the birth of modern science. That physical reality, however, cannot account for the dragon's most famous, most mythical trait, the ability to breathe real fire. If we look for nature's closest equivalent, we find animals with chemical defense mechanisms. Take the bombardier beetle, which ejects a boiling, noxious spray when threatened. While nature can produce heat-generating chemical reactions, breathing a stream of actual fire is biologically implausible. An animal would face massive biological roadblocks. It would need to source a combustible fuel, evolve a safe ignition mechanism, and protect its own mouth and throat from incineration. Because a biological engine for fire breathing is structurally impossible, this specific feature appears to be a product of human imagination rather than a misinterpreted fossil. To bridge the gap between incomplete fossilized fragments and a fully formed, terrifying creature, we have to look at human neurology. Our brains are hardwired for pareidolia, the biological phenomenon where we automatically recognize familiar patterns in incomplete data. Discovering an enormous partial skull in the dirt would immediately trigger this ancient survival mechanism, forcing the mind to fill in the blanks. Early humans constructed the missing pieces of the fossil by magnifying the traits of the most dangerous living predators they already knew: snakes, crocodiles, and large birds of prey. The dragon is a psychological symptom, the result of early humans trying to process terrifying, unknown remains using the biology of fear. Science does not point to a single original dragon fossil. There is no simple one-to-one translation where a specific bone matches a specific legend. The dragons of Chinese, European, and Mesoamerican cultures vary in appearance and meaning, showing that these were unique cultural creations rather than copies of one creature. Instead, scientists and historians view dragons as a complex cultural tapestry, a mix of fossil discoveries, folklore, and psychological exaggeration. But the truth of paleontology is just as bizarre and awe-inspiring as the myths we invented. we didn't need to invent monsters. Earth's deep history was already populated with unbelievable creatures. Prehistoric marine predators reached a scale and a terrifying reality that eclipses standard mythology. Terrestrial giants grew to proportions that left behind skeletal remains that were genuinely colossal. The myth of the dragon emerged from the direct interaction between real fossils and the human attempt to give them form. If an ancient human dug up a complete, towering Tyrannosaurus skull, would they have called it a dinosaur or a dragon?